guys, and welcome back to iScience. Today's iScience adventure is kitchen table science. These are experiments that you can do at your kitchen table. Now, I will say you will need some adult supervision for some of these experiments because they involve using a lighter and some fire. Okay, but other than that, these are all very safe experiments for you to try at home. So let's start with the first one. So what you guys may have seen is this setup right here. This is a bowl jar. On that jar, I have a water balloon. Now you'll notice when I push on top of the water balloon that it won't go down into the jar. The reason is this jar is full of air. It's full of air, and I'll show you. I just filled it up with air. All right, so now it's full of air, just like if it was full of dirt or sand or rocks or chocolate chips. If I put this on top and push on it, it won't go down in there because there's no room for it. It is full of air. Well, what I can do is I can use some science to get some of that air out to make room for my water balloon. So what I'm going to do is I got a piece of paper towel here, and I'm going to set my paper towel on fire. This is the part that needs adult supervision. All right, and I light it on fire. Fire! All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and flip it over, drop it down in there, drop it down. So what's happening in this experiment is the air inside the jar is being heated up by the fire on the paper towel. That hot air pushes upward. It tends to rise and pushes the balloon up out of the way, which is why the balloon shakes. As the balloon is shaking, it's creating little tiny gaps around the edge of the jar, which allows a little bit of the air to come out, which creates a little bit of space for the balloon to go inside. Then the air pressure outside is greater than the air pressure inside, and the air pressure outside pushes the balloon into the jar. So that experiment was pretty cool. Well, I've got another similar experiment that is pretty much the reverse of that experiment. So what we got, I've got a jar here, I've got a plate, and I put some food coloring and some water here on the plate. I've also got a little tea candle here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to light this tea candle. And you guys know heat rises, so the heat is rising off of this candle here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my jar over on top of the candle, and something interesting is going to happen. You can see the liquid moving into the jar. That's because the warm air is rising in the jar, pulling some of the liquid up with it. As the candle burns, it's going to take more and more of the air out of the jar, which is going to create a little tiny vacuum in there, which you can see right there, pulling the rest of the liquid up into the jar. All right, so we saw some pretty cool pressure experiments. Well, I'm going to show you one more that you can do. So this is a can of soda, and you know that there are bubbles in the soda. Those bubbles are in there right now pushing out on the can. What makes it hard for me to squeeze. You see here, I can't even make a dent in the can unless I squeeze really, really hard. Well, what I can do is I can use the pressure inside the can to help me open the can without pulling the pop top. Let me show you how it's done. So here's how that works. There is a very thin piece of aluminum here that is holding the top together. When I took the marker and rubbed it back and forth over the lip of the can, that took the metal and flexed it back and forth just a little bit, and it weakened the metal enough that the pressure inside of the can was great enough to push it open. So in this case, the pressure inside the can was greater than the pressure outside the can. That's why we had the explosion that you saw. Pretty cool, if you ask me. All this kitchen table science has made me thirsty. If you guys want to try these experiments at home, you're welcome to do so. Just make sure you get some adult help and be careful. I hope you enjoyed this episode of iScience.